Hey guys, welcome to another video. We are reviewing a new microphone. I am with my tag team partners, Zaki Ali and Greg Talfan, who is currently on his way with like-minded creators. And today we are looking at the new BASN BMS2 condenser microphone. Now, BASN was kind enough to send me this microphone, and we're going to put this through the paces through various instances of where you would use a large diaphragm condenser. So I'm going to do voiceover / podcast voice for it. Greg is going to be singing some vocals, and Zaki is going to be setting up his drum kit to use it as a room microphone. Now, bonus here, guys, we are going to be putting this against Zaki's ever trusty U87 right here. Vintage U87, and we also have my go-to large diaphragm condenser, which is a AKG C214, and for a very low-end option, we have a MXL V63M, which is what I personally have been using for years as both a room microphone and my go-to large diaphragm condenser. If you are tight on a budget, it's a great option. But let's just get some basics out of the way as far as price comparison goes. This retails at around $250. The C214 retails at around $400, but you can get them used for a little less than that. The MXL you can get for, I'd say, like $100 or less. And Zaki, how much is that U87?
Well, this one is limited edition Rodeo, so it's priced a little higher, but normally a U87, a classic U87 is around $35, I believe.
All right, so open up the box and you get this nice styrofoam container. Very tightly packed. I don't want to accidentally rip it out. Well, there we go. That takes care of that. And you get a little nice plastic case. Is it metal engraving? No, it is not metal engraved. So let's open it and see what we got. A couple of instruction manuals. Don't need that. Here is the shock mount. Oh, this is a hefty boy. Oh my God. You could beat someone upside the head with that.
Is that metal?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, what is this in here? Is this... Oh, they're kind enough to give you an XLR cable.
Beautiful.
Okay, that's cool. And then here is the microphone itself. Here is a pop filter. That's pretty cool. Oh my God. Zaki, this is pretty hefty.
Nice.
So here it is. It's got two different buttons on it. You can do -6 or -12 dB reduction. And it has a 40 hertz or 300 hertz high pass filter on it. It's a pretty hefty microphone, and I like the cheese grater design on it. If you're a professional wrestler, you could probably beat your opponent upside the head with this and give him a good busting open. Now I hear Jim Ross in my head saying, "By God, the bass player's busted open." But here, let's switch this. First impression, feel it.
Oh yeah, it's got some nice weight to it. Definitely a nice metal casing. I guess all these functions, unlike the U87 or a couple other condenser mics where it's a switch, it seems like it's powered by phantom power. So
yeah,
you have to plug it in and give it phantom power to get through the settings.
Yeah.
But yeah, very beautiful mic, and yeah, can't wait to see how it stands up against the other stuff.
It's a pretty cool design, and it's a hefty guy. So we're going to now compare this mic with with three other microphones. So I think what we're going to do right now is get 4 microphone stands loaded up and get in position for voiceover work while we're waiting for Greg to come here to grace us with his beautiful voice for vocals. So I'll do some voiceover work. Greg will sing, and then Zaki will get behind the drum kit and we'll test it as a room mic. All right, so we have probably the most batshit crazy microphone setup of all time. So we have the okay, Zaki, this is not a standard U87, but what is this exact?
So this is a Rhodium edition U87. It's a limited run. They made 500, and so it's the same spec and circuitry as the U87. It's just almost like a collector's item, but
Okay.
it's just a U87 essentially.
So
U87 AI.
So this specific U87 costs, you said, about like $7,000?
No, I think it was about
45?
48 or something.
Okay, so a little under $5,000, but a standard U87, if it's using the same circuitry, is around $3,500. This one is the MXL V63M. You can get a used one of these for less than $100. This is my go-to C214. That retails for about $400. And this is the BASN BMS2. This retails for about $250. So we got all 4 capsules as close as possible without touching one another. So we can get the same exact performance recorded 4 different ways. So Greg right here is going to give us his vocal excellence. And we're going to record all 4 of these into, what interface is this, Zachy?
This is a RME Fireface 802.
And we're going straight from the interface in the Pro Tools. None of this beautiful gear here is going to be used except in post. We are recording the raw signal straight into the interface, and that's it. No other preamps or processing is going to be added to these microphones before it hits Pro Tools. So the multi-tracks you're going to hear are just from this Fireface. Okay, so we have the microphones all set up already. Look at this gnarly setup here. Okay, so we all have this set up here. Now, Zach, you were pointing something out interesting.
Yeah, so we got everything plugged into the pre's. I made sure, just to start with, all of these are gain matched. So,
exactly the same gain
going in.
Right off the bat.
Yeah, and so one thing I was noticing right away, I mean, this is just, we're hearing us talking in the room, is the signals you're seeing right now. But you could see right now that the U87 seems to be getting a little more input. I would say like
a little hotter of a signal.
2 decibels, a couple decibels louder. Then we got the BASN second, then the C214, then the MXL. And I don't know if that's like, in accordance with like the price ranges we're working with here. Like the most expensive mic has the most signal right now. Is BASN the second, or C214 is probably the second, right?
The C214 is the second most expensive mic here.
Okay.
That one retails at around $400.
Okay. So, I mean, it's not by much, but the BASN is getting a little bit hotter of a signal.
Again, it all depends on the frequency response on these things. Right now we're going to get Greg voice sound checking here, and he's just going to talk into the mic, and we're going to gain match everything in accordance to his speaking volume and his singing volume, and then we're going to record vocals. We're going to aim so we are hitting no more than minus 6 dB going into the Pro Tools, which is pretty standard when you're tracking anything. So let's get to it. Every day I pray for you to save yourself. You need the help I can repair. Your despair, it's true. I say right through you. Right off the bat, just looking at the waves, you could see that each of the mics has a slightly different dynamic response. And it's interesting because the BASN, not by much, but I would say like you can notice it on transients, like right here, where it almost looks like the signal is almost like a little compressed, Mm-hmm. But it's as if I were to compress this signal like a little bit. I feel like it would look more like that one. I'm excited to hear what it sounds like completely raw without any of your processing on it. Let's run it completely raw. And, so let's go from cheapest to most expensive. Let's start with the MXL. Okay, here is the MXL. Let's turn this up. Every day I pray for you to save yourself. You need the help I can repair. Your despair, it's true. I say right through you. Nice. Not bad for a less than $100 microphone. Yeah, not bad at all. Actually, there's a really nice like high-end
like characteristic to that mic that I feel like would be favored really well with a little bit of saturation. And I think it would almost enhance the quality and characteristic.
I also think that mic sounds amazing on acoustic guitars.
Yeah.
Like on an acoustic, that thing cuts right through. So now let's go to the second most expensive microphone, second least expensive, which is the BASN BMS2. So this is my first time actually hearing anything recorded on that microphone. So this is the BASN.
Okay.
Every day I pray for you to save yourself. You need the help I can repair your despair. It's true. I'll say right through you.
Right off the bat, Zach, I think you would agree with me. Nowhere near as crisp in the high end, like the real highs as the MXL. Like
right.
that.
It's not.
But it sounds a little more smooth to me.
The high end, yeah, right. The high end is a little. That's what I was gonna say. Smoother. It almost has like this air sort of
Quality.
Yeah, to it, and it sounds really nice. What's really interesting is like we're not gonna hear too much of a difference just hearing the raw signal like this, and that's something really important for people to consider when they're picking up or choosing a condenser microphone, depending on what genre you are or what the context of what you're recording is, because what we're going to do after this is actually process it in a way where it's going to enhance the characteristic of the mic, and we'll really hear the difference in the characteristic. But let's keep moving on. For now, we'll do the C214.
Second most expensive. This is my personal go-to C214 large diaphragm condenser. It has the same exact capsule as the C414, which is a very famous overhead combination. The only difference is between the C214 and the 414 is the 414 has more polar patterns in it. The C214 is just cardioid. That's the only difference, but it's the same capsule.
Okay, so here's 214.
Every day I pray for you to save yourself. You need the help I can repair your despair. It's true. I'll say right through you.
It sounds more boxy.
I like
Yeah, I was gonna
that
say
one the best.
it seems like there's a little bit of a high mid boost in there, like 1.8K ish.
Oh, I heard like in the lower mids, like between like
it has a
200 to 800.
The
I
mids
heard.
in general are more accentuated on that one for sure.
And it has the crispiness of the MXL too. It has really crispy high end.
It's nice. It's not.
I very rarely have to do any EQing with this when I put a vocal on it, as far as high end
It
goes.
doesn't sound like my voice is so hot.
It sounds
It absorbs the voice well.
sounds good though.
Yeah.
And then here is here is clearly the most expensive microphone here, the Neumann U87. Now, reminder, this is the same capsule and circuitry as a standard U87. This is just for lack of a better term, collector's edition of the U87. So same capsule, same circuitry as a standard U87. So here it is.
Every day I pray for you to save yourself. You need the help I can repair your despair. It's true. I'll say right through you.
That to me has the best mid-range of all four.
Yeah.
That was the best.
There's a really specific characteristic to the U87 that I really favor, and I'll show you after the fact when we process this, where it really brings out the highs, but in a clear, like it has this clear, crisp, high quality characteristic. And that's actually favored by a lot of like rap and hip hop artists in the industry that I've seen, but also works really well for singers. Although a lot of times when there's like a belting singer, there's the standard U87, which is the new reissue is $7,000. But it's not the same circuitry as a U87, but it has a tube in it. And so when you really belt, you can start to hear a little bit of the saturation in the tube, and it's a very nice characteristic. But again, all of these mics, any microphone you're using for your vocals, or for anything really. It's all what works in that setting or situation, right? Like the U87 might sound great on one vocalist and might not be the mic for another person. And so it's very important to consider that when you're picking the mic you're using. But let's process these and, let's see some results. Okay, so I think a very good test for these microphones, for vocal performance specifically, is a process that I'm going to do through the Neves. And this is something I'll do to essentially prep the vocals for how they're going to be processed in the mix. So I want to be very clear about the fact that we're not running any chorus, no doubler, no delays, no reverbs, none of the fancy bells and whistles you'll actually automate in a song. But what we're doing to process these vocals is actually feeding it out. What I've done here is made 4 new tracks that we're going to print each one of these individually on, right? So I'm going to start with the U87 just because that's what I'm familiar with. And I'm feeding it out of the interface, output 7, going into the input on the back of this top Neve Shelford. Output of the Neve Shelford is then going back into the interface on input 5. There's 2 separate outputs. So the output we're coming out of on the back of the channel, there's a 0 decibel output and then there's a negative 6 decibel output. The difference between the negative 6 decibel output is actually when I boost the EQ, I have to boost a little hotter and you get more of the sound of the transformers and the Neve sound, right? So essentially we're coming out of negative 6 decibel output back into input 5 in the back of the RME. So I have to switch this. It's already in line mode, so that's going to bypass the preamp. And first thing I want to do, see here, is we're going to go to the compressor. I'm going to turn that on. I'm going to do a pre-EQ, so that's putting the compressor first in the signal chain. And this mix knob, we're going to turn that to 100%. And over here, we have a sidechain button. And what we're doing with the sidechain button is essentially feeding in, so the sidechain in the back has a send and return on the back of the compressor. The send is going into the input of the right channel of this graphic equalizer. And then the output of this graphic equalizer is going back into the return on the compressor. And basically all we're doing on this EQ is boosting between 1 and 4K, which is typically the harsh nasally frequency of a vocal. What that's going to do is it's going to compress specifically that region before we go to the EQ and start boosting some of the highs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set these up. Some of the highs, some of the lower end, maybe like 400 range, just to see how it reacts to the mics. And this is going to really bring out the quality of the mics and how they work when the signal is actually processed.
So this, guys, is how Zachy would process all 4 of these tracks, but the 4 raw multi-tracks are in the description right now for you to download to experiment with and do whatever you want with them. So you can process it however you want.
So sounds good for you. Just to be clear, the reason setting up the compressor this way is essentially how a de-esser works. Yeah. Right. And so what that's doing is just prepping the signal. It's actually something when you do it with an analog unit like this, it almost gives the vocals like sort of a natural sound. And if you're using any sort of vocal tuning or auto tune, it almost takes away that effect a little bit, which can be very favorable if you're working with a vocalist and you don't want to hear the auto tune algorithm, making their voice sound like T-Pain.
Yeah.
So we're gonna, I'm gonna feed the U87 through. Let's see what we got. Immediately see how much compression we're getting. There's a decent amount of compression. Now that when we bring up the highs, the clarity in that is boost 400. Let's hear it one more time.
Every day I pray for you to say.
Little boost at 400 with a thin Q, and I got a little bit more of a boost at 16K, and then we have a silk mode, saturation.
It's true. I say right through
Actually, we got a little more headroom to put up on the gain, so let's do that to really drive the Neve here.
Every day I pray for you to save yourself. You need the help I can repair your despair. It's true, I'll say right through you.
That's pretty solid.
Yeah, let me, I made a small adjustment in the beginning, so I'm just going to run the print one more time. But also, you could see how much more compressed the signal just looks right off the bat from the original U87 signal
So
to
the,
the printed.
the original signal is the blue, the process signal is the green.
Right. And so, especially on the this line right here, where this is very quiet, but over here you could see that it's really brought out. And it's also important to note that when you utilize a compressor, utilizing the send and return, it reacts very differently on vocals. It sounds like a completely different compressor, let's put it that way. Even if I use the same compressor on that Neve without the send and return. So it's a completely different characteristic, and it's something really nice to prep the vocals for mixing, essentially. So I'm just going to run that one more time.
Every day I pray for you to save yourself. You need the help I can repair your despair. It's true, I'll say right through you.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah, that was, that's really when you start to see the characteristic of the U87 and why it shines in a mix. I mean, it brings out just the right amount of highs with that little crisp in it. I'm trying to think of like a good vocal example. Maybe like Ariana Grande or something, right? Like we hear those crisp highs. I'm not even 100% sure that it's a U87, but I'd bet I'm 9 out of 10. Sure. 90% sure. We'll look it up. But that's a U87. That's the characteristic that it brings out.
I know Beyonce uses a U87.
Right.
So let's hear what these settings sound like with the
214.
with the 214.
Every day I pray for you to save yourself. You need the help I can repair your despair. It's true, I'll say right through you.
I ended up lowering the amount of highs I was boosting because it was just way too much when I did it. When I did what I would do with the U87. And actually on the U87 I was boosting a little bit of 400 to kind of give a little bit of that vocal presence. Not presence, yeah, I guess presence.
It sounds like the C214 already has that.
It does, but it had way too much. So I actually ended up cutting a significant amount to get it to sound similar to... It's just a very different frequency response than the U87. And it's not like it's a not usable mic. Again, like I was saying, this comes down not just to preference, but how a specific signal sounds on these microphones. One vocalist might sound really good on the U87, while another could sound horrible on a U87. So, just keep that in mind.
But what's amazing, just from... I mean, we heard what your go-to normal process is for the U87,
right.
And with just literally a couple of adjustments on the same exact piece of equipment, you got the 214, which is a couple $1,000s less than the U87, to sound pretty damn good as well.
Right. I mean, it sounds really nice. The thing, another important thing to notice is if you look at the transients here, with how the compression, I really zoomed in to kind of show you how the compression is acting on certain waves. So you could see this kind of bell formation here on the 214, whereas it looks like kind of smoothed out. There's certain things where like the attack at the end of this word, that's probably like a T or D, is brought out so much more.
Right at the very end right here versus right up
that
here.
green, where it's a little more like tamed.
You're right. That instance right there. So look at that
something like
spiking
that
right there.
These transient
right
spikes right there too at the beginning of these words. The way that's kicking in versus like over here, it's way different. And so that could be something that's brought out, maybe a little unfavorable, maybe probably not something that can't be taken care of with a little bit of compression, but you might have to go with a little bit more processing to kind of tame it, I guess.
But this is also, that's the post-processing signal.
Right.
But if we look at the raw signal, which is this light blue one versus this dark green one, it looks almost identical.
They're almost identical, right.
So it all depends on your processing, how you do it, what your workflow is.
Right. Okay.
Well, I guess what we're trying to say is, like, we're nitpicking right here, but both of these microphones are clearly competent, and you can get pro results with it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the goal at the end of the day is to really show why you would use a certain mic and, you know, what the qualities of it are, and maybe help guide you in what choices you want to make.
I'm curious to hear what the BASN sounds like.
Yeah, likewise. I'm going to solo that. I'm sure this is going to be similar to the U87, but let's check it out.
Every day I pray for you to save yourself. You need the help I can repair your despair. It's true, I'll say right through you.
Nice.
I mean, look at the post-transients.
Yeah, it's almost identical.
It's almost identical to the U87.
Yeah, I mean, so...
And it sounds almost identical, too.
I really just put the same settings I had on the U87. So I want to hear those back to back because I'm actually very impressed with this microphone. And there's like a nice clarity to it, like a really, really nice clarity to it.
So what we're going to listen to right now is the processing that went through this Shelford channel, EQ, and compressor from the Neve, the printed results, and we're going to hear the difference now in the processed U87 versus the processed BASN.
Okay.
So let's hear the U87 first.
Okay. U87.
Every day I pray for you to save yourself. You need the help I can repair your despair. It's true, I'll say right through you.
Nice, okay.
Very nice. That's the U87. Now here's the BASN.
Every day I pray for you to save yourself. You need the help I can repair your despair. It's true, I'll say right through you.
Okay.
Just based on that, I think I hear the high end a little more like up there in the processed BASN channel.
Right. That's exactly, immediately I noticed that the frequency response boost on the BASN is clearly more like high mids, where on the U87, it's like, if you were to take your EQ point and move it all the way to 20K and start boosting over there, it's like this like sort of like crisp area, which is essentially like what the U87 is known for, right? And like, I guess when you run that through compression, like further compression, like through your LA2 and your 1176, then you really start you kind of accentuate on that even more, you know? So it's really nice. I mean, we ran the same settings. I don't think I'd have to boost the highs as much on the BASN, but the BASN sounds really nice too, man. Definitely very impressed with that. Not
bad for a $250 microphone.
No,
I think this
not
is
at
like
all.
BASN's second attempt at a microphone, or this might be their first attempt at
a condenser.
At a condenser mic. So.
Okay, and then
I'll put a text over like if I'm wrong speaking right now, but I'm pretty sure this is BASN's first attempt at a microphone, which not bad effort, guys. So yeah, for the hell of it, let's hear the less than $100 MXL.
Every day I pray for you to save yourself. You need the help I can repair your despair. It's true, I'll say right through you.
Yeah, actually, it really wasn't bad. I feel like the highs are also more on the higher end of the frequency spectrum, but there's something about it. It's not as like smooth, I guess, as the U87.
The high end sound a little more harsh.
It's harsh, and you'd probably end up trying to find a spot you can notch out.
You would have to do a little more processing on this to fine tune it, but
it's totally workable.
It's totally
It's not like, you know, it's the end of the world if you don't have
a good vocalist in a good room is like 80% of the battle right there.
Right. I mean, when it comes to these like high-end boutique mics, you're talking about the absolute best of the best possible capture for like a very specific thing, you know? Like if you know you need it for this one thing, then sure, like it sounds amazing, you know? But again, this is just how I would prep to start mixing. And that doesn't even mean like, you know, once it's mixed, it would be even more different after the fact. Once we run it through LA2s, 1176s, put some reverb, delays, doublers on it, and then, you know, it's a whole different ballgame with each of these, because the way each one of those plugins will react on the initial signal you captured is gonna then alter what's there even more, and so on and so forth.
But really impressive showing with the BASN.
Yeah, I'm actually very impressed by the BASN.
All right, so now I'm going to get in the quote-unquote booth here, and I'm going to do a voiceover as if I were doing a radio promo. Right. Now, I'm going to have to come up with a radio station off the top of my head. Okay, hold on, I got to write something. Ready? Okay. Taking you home from work every Monday through Friday. This is DJ Chris playing your favorite 60s, 70s, and 80s hits on 69.9 WZZZ Radio, Sheboygan, Wisconsin's favorite radio station. There you go.
Here's the, what order you want to go on?
Let's do cheapest to most expensive.
Okay.
Let's do the MXL first.
MXL.
Completely unprocessed.
Completely unprocessed.
Taking you home from work every Monday through Friday. This is DJ Chris playing your favorite 60s, 70s, and 80s hits on 69.9 WZZZ Radio, Sheboygan, Wisconsin's favorite radio station.
Okay.
There you go.
Then we got...
I'm gonna leave that in. There you go. Have fun, people.
Then the
second least expensive is the BASN. Taking you home from work every Monday through Friday. This is DJ Chris playing your favorite 60s, 70s, and 80s hits on 69.9 WZZZ Radio, Sheboygan, Wisconsin's favorite radio station. Not bad. C214 is the second most expensive.
Yeah.
Taking you home from work every Monday through Friday. This is DJ Chris playing your favorite 60s, 70s, and 80s hits on 69.9 WZZZ Radio, Sheboygan, Wisconsin's favorite radio station. Okay, right off the bat, the BASN hands down sounds infinitely better for me doing voiceover than the C214.
It really does.
So just hearing that right now unprocessed, the BASN is now my new voiceover mic. That's it.
Absolutely.
Like, goodbye C214, you've been retired. You've been retired by a microphone that costs half as much.
A U87 unprocessed.
Taking you home from work every Monday through Friday. This is DJ Chris playing your favorite 60s, 70s, and 80s hits on 69.9 WZZZ Radio, Sheboygan, Wisconsin's favorite radio station. Yeah, nice. The BASN sounds the best to me. Yeah. I'm guilty of really like overdoing the P's and T's and the W's.
Oh no, it's good. This is an excellent test for the mics. So
those of you who are going to process this on your own, the WZZZ Radio, Sheboygan, Wisconsin's, there's a lot of de-essing work you're going to do with that. All right, guys, so we have the vocal singing performance and the vocal voiceover test done. Now our final test. We're going to have Greg behind the drum kit right here, and he is going to play a couple bars of music here on the drums, and we are only going to give you guys the room mics. We are not going to give you the close mic tracks because we're testing this out as room mics. Depending on how your workflow is and how you mix your drum set, some people like to squash the crap out of the room. Some people like to let that just be essentially a longer third overhead, depending on what genre you play. But you guys are going to get the raw multi-tracks of all four microphones playing the same exact performance right here. Greg's going to play about 2 bars, 30 seconds, whatever. of his drum kit. And you guys are only going to get the room mics to test which one sounds best for you and your processing. So again, all 4 mics are in the Fireface 802, and that is the only preamp that is going into Pro Tools. So no other processing is going into it. So you're getting the cleanest, driest signal possible from all 4 of these microphones. So yeah, all we need now is Zach to hit record, and Greg, take it away, man. Overall,
Yeah.
BASN just knocked it out of the park with this mic. So thank you, BASN, for sending me this wonderful microphone. I had a blast making this comparison video. And again, guys, we compared 4 different microphones at 4 different price points. The BASN is retailing at $250. The C214 is retailing at around $400. The MXL you can get for about $100 or so. And the U87 is in the thousands. So 4 different price points, 4 different microphones, 4 different characteristics. But overall, the BASN, I mean, they knocked it out of the park with this. It's a wonderfully built microphone. It feels sturdy. It feels fantastic. The shock mount is excellent. It sounds great in multiple scenarios. And it definitely competes with the big boys over here.
Absolutely. So there was one thing I wanted to point out I didn't get to earlier, but specifically with the U87, we left it on the card UA setting, whereas for in the application of room mic, I would switch that
to Omni.
to omnidirectional,
Get the whole room.
full 360 capture, and it typically favors that style of feeding into a compressor a little, better, bringing out the reverb of the room better.
Of course.
So that was the only thing, but these are all incredible. It's just really cool to hear the differences and how they could be used. And
I love doing these mic tests, man. So
absolutely.
For those of you who are interested, you could download all of these raw multi-tracks in the description, play with the files yourself, and see what you guys can come up with. And let me know in the comments below what you think of the BASN BSM2 condenser microphone when comparing it to these other 3 microphones. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. And as always, thank you, Zach and Greg, my like-minded creators, tag team partners here, for helping me out here. Catch you in the next video. Peace.